So, okay, this was a very difficult thing for me to put together, simply because I think few minds like Aristotle's have been passed down to us in history. There have been some Renaissance men who have done wonderful things, but Aristotle just takes the cake. Yeah. So the first to notice about Aristotle is the breadth of what he was occupying himself with. And he contributed to every domain of human knowledge in existence at his time. And he, in fact, founded many new fields. So he's not just an absolute, forerunner in one field like Einstein, but he is a forerunner in very, 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 very many fields, and he establishes further fields. One way to think about these old philosophers is that what they were doing is organizing thoughts and exploring knowledge, and if they do it well enough, then they get a new field. So the early pre-Socratics were in some way trying to do something like physics, right? And if they were good enough, then they would establish physics, which comes with a methodology, etc., etc. Or maybe they were looking at language, and if they looked at it well enough, then they would end up with linguistics. And then you don't do philosophy anymore because you've done it so well and so meticulous that you've created a new field. You've done the questions that the other sciences have not yet been able to approach, and you've organized the field such that it's open to systemized thought. This is one way to look at the old philosophers. And so the second box on the screen, modern scholars, and each of these modern scholars are referred to are experts in the particular field of which they speak. So, experts in logic have said Aristotle is the father of logic, and experts in biology have said Aristotle is the father of biology, psychology, rhetoric, realism, criticism, individualism, teleology, meteorology, the scientific method, natural law. This is unbelievable to me that one human mind was able to apprehend and do all of this as creatively as this human did. So he had a systematic mind, super curious, and a regimented approach. As founder of many fields, he categorized and defined. And here we see the categories. His works read like encyclopedia entries and dictionaries. He's meticulous. He does the posterior analytics, then he does the after the posterior and the prior analytics, where he does the work you need in order to do logic. Then he does the work of logic. Then he shows what you can do with logic. Then he shows why he did this. He uses that then later to do things like rhetoric, to analyze what it means to have literature. What is the typical story arc of a drama? He's meticulous, he's systematic, and he really just lays the foundational groundwork for others to go and do the work, right? He just gives us the method, the categorization. You can disagree with the categorization, but prior to him, there was no categorization, and there was nothing for you to disagree with unless you came up with it yourself, which is very difficult to do, unless you're Aristotle. Logic, he's the first to formalize logic, and most influential until the early 19th century, right? So for 2,400, 2,300 years, his logic was the dominant logic amongst everything except for the Far East. Then we had mathematical logic, and that broke the mold. Foundational approaches in metaphysics, ethics, biology, politics. His four causes, I'm not going to go into those, but they're well explained in the relevant objective on the Newlane website. This is a teleological thought. He thought everything has a purpose, and you need to uncover that purpose. The acorn has a teleology, or a telos, and the acorn wants to be an oak tree. In the right conditions, in the right setting, it'll become an oak tree. It wants to flourish. Flourishing for it becomes an oak tree. For us, flourishing is eudaimonia, right? Everything has a telos, and he wants to figure out what it is, and he does so. This means he's looking at an empirical nature. In other words, he's engaged in the world. Unlike Plato, who's got the forms that explain everything, all meaning originates in these forms that are ideal in a different world. We can't really see them. We can sort of remember them through anamnesis, but it's weird. Aristotle says, what is the actual deep essence of an acorn? Look around you. Well, it's an oak tree. There it is. So he's in the world. He puts the form, he puts the purpose, he puts the meaning in this world. And there we have the fundamental difference between him and Plato. We call this immanent realism. The final cause of everything is found in the world itself. This raises other questions, because if the cause of everything is in the world, then what is, the final cause of everything is in the world, what is the final cause of the world? Does it cause itself? That sounds like God. And there you have some sort of abstract ideal form, once again, that, timeless, blah, blah, blah. So there are issues if you take this to its absolute. Few things don't have issues when you take them to their absolute, so this is not a hard criticism. His works form the backbone of philosophy from the 1st until the 6th century Common Era. We lost his work in the West from the 6th to the 12th century. Amen, we had the Arabic and the Byzantine philosophers who knew his works and worked really hard on them. Avicenna, Averroes, they did fantastic work, and then they very kindly bequeathed it back to the West. 12th century, the West got it back. Thomas Aquinas, huge scholastic scholar, theologian, philosopher, and many others. They tried to then reconcile Aristotle with Christianity. Thomas Aquinas refers to Aristotle simply as the philosopher. I guess like Madonna has one name, Pele has one name, Aristotle is just the philosopher. I guess Dante is the poet, or Shakespeare is the playwright. And then from the 12th to the 16th century, he pretty much guided Western philosophy in every possible way. There's nothing that was happening in this time in the West that didn't, either revolt against Aristotle explicitly or adapt Aristotle to whatever needs were present. It's amazing that such a person had such a long influence in so many different spheres, in so many different parts of the world. Politics, briefly. For him, humans are defined as the political animal, which I think is a pretty nice idea. He says, to live alone, one must be either a beast or a god. Humans are social, we're political. To live alone is crazy. Nietzsche says, haha, you must be either A, beast, B, a god, or C, both, the philosopher. But there's just a philosopher saying that philosophers are very cool and unique. He influenced, for example, John Locke, huge name in political philosophy. John Locke built massive political systems directly influenced by Aristotle. Unlike Plato, who wanted philosopher kings to govern for us because they know best and the plebs must just survive. And Plato had 3 kinds of humans, those with gold in the soul, iron, and bronze. And so the bronze are simply the workers, and they'll never be able to move too much. What we have today is Aristotelian. The rule of law governed by a constitution. This is Aristotle. Ethics, virtue ethics we've done, still important today. It's made a revival today, in fact. It's rather necessary today. Poetics, literary criticism. He formulated this whole school of thought. He defined what it is to have plot structure. He defined tragedy. He wrote a handbook on how to write a good tragedy. Scientific classification. His method of classification laid the groundwork for the scientific method. He himself did not really go out and do experiments. He was an observational individual. He observed, he liked aquatic sea life, marine biology. He looked at that a lot. For 2 years, he was doing that and just trying to figure out, what the system is underneath it all. His school, the Lyceum, was a kind of research university, unlike Plato's, which was a teaching university. And then, so how do you summarize a mind like Aristotle's? I don't know, right? I just don't know. To know the West is to know Aristotle, has been said about him, and us, I guess. He wasn't always right, of course, but he asked the right questions in the right way about the right things. And really, this is philosophy, right? He got us thinking in a certain direction, in a certain way, such that using his foundation, we can do some pretty interesting stuff. And he's into realism, reality, reason, observation. He's kind of like an engineer in the sense of knowledge or thought or wisdom. Phronesis, right? I think this is one of his most important things. Bridging the abstract, the absolute good, whatever that means, with practical life that's messy, and he finds a way to bring the individual into the universal, etc., etc. And then to know the West is to know Aristotle, and we only have an estimated third of his work, and this includes references that other people have made to his work. So I can say all of this about him. I can paint him as this absolute genius based on a third of what he did. We don't know the other 2/3. Huge pity. But this mind was a singular mind. So I leave it there after my little hero worship of Aristotle.